What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And we just got back from watching a Thursday night premiere of the Wonder Woman movie. And as per usual, when I watch one of these geeky, nerdy movies, I will talk about them here if they're particularly bad or if they are particularly good. And a lot of people, as usual, I tweeted it out tonight that I was going to the movie. A lot of people said review, review, review. So if you saw the title of this video, you'll know that the first half of this video will be spoiler-free. And the way that I always make sure, in case you jump around in the video, the way we do that is by putting the Wonder Woman logo or some sort of logo here on this side. And if it's on this side of my head, you'll know that we are talking spoiler-free. Before I say anything that's spoilerific, I will move this to this side, probably with some sort of song and dance routine, and then we will begin talking spoilers. So if you jump around in the video, as long as it's on this side, you're not going to hear any spoilers. So, should you watch this movie? I think you should probably definitely watch this movie. If you're a DC fan, if you're a superhero fan at all, or if you're somebody that dabbles in the superhero stuff and you're not really like crazy about it, this movie has got a lot of heart to it. I think one of the critics said that, and I kept thinking that all throughout the movie. They're absolutely right. This movie has a lot of heart. Now, I think before I go into this, I think it's important that you know that I do tend to prefer Marvel over DC, especially in the cinematic universe. A lot of different reasons for that. I tend to like the Marvel Universe because it's more fun and it's kind of silly at parts and it makes me laugh as often as it makes me cry and it just makes me feel good inside, and I like movies that make me feel good. The Dark Knight movies I really loved, not every part of every movie, but I did like them overall. Batman vs. Superman, did not care for. The last Superman movie, did not care for. And the Suicide Squad, I kind of liked. I gave it like a 6 out of 10. I thought it was silly and goofy, but not particularly enjoyable. So I think that's important that you know that. My wife also watched this movie, as well as all those other movies that I mentioned, and all of the DC and all the Marvel movies. She loved this movie. Right now, sitting at Metacritic, it's about a 93%, and I think that is well-deserved. So you should probably watch this movie at some point. The good news is there's no huge spoilers. Nothing that I think anybody can ruin for you. And that said, it means you can probably wait a couple weeks in to go see it, or you can wait until it's at a home theater and watch it there on some sort of DVD, Blu-ray, streaming service, something along that lines. That said, you definitely should probably see this movie. DC, this is kind of what I want from DC, right? Like, I kind of want the bleakness of the DC movies, the Superman and the Dark Knight and that stuff. I do like the bleak and the sad and the weird and the dramatic. I really do like that. Except most of the time it's still so heavy-handed, and I don't get enough time to really enjoy the characters or develop any feelings for the characters. It's always just so, I don't know, rushed. This is not the case for this movie. They do a lot of good jobs of developing the main character, developing all the supporting cast, makes you really like everyone. There are some, as usual with DC movies and with Marvel movies as well, some questionable lines of dialogue that are a little heavy-handed, some questionable scenes that are a little heavy-handed. If you're one of those people that nitpick movies, maybe this one is not one to rush out and we'll see, because there's definitely some stuff in there that honestly could use a rewrite or two. But overall, I think it's a damn fine film. Acting was good, the casting was fantastic, the costumes were great, the action scenes were great, the backgrounds were great, the CGI was very, very good. The script is good. The story was good. I'm just very surprised. This is not what I expected at all. I walked into this movie expecting nothing. I expected it to be worse than Batman vs. Superman or worse than Suicide Squad, and it was far better than the rest of them. One of the things that I think, since it is a Wonder Woman movie, and we do live in this bizarre world of like identity politics, a lot of people are worried about feminism when it comes to this film. I've heard it mentioned way less than I expected. And yes, there is definitely a matriarchy in this movie, and there's a society that's ruled entirely by women. It does not play the role that you might be afraid that it does. Nobody is preaching at you. Nobody is heavy-handing anything to you. There's no hidden subtext about all men being terrible or anything like that. There's probably, if you are a particularly sensitive snowflake and you like particularly hate any feminist messages, there's probably one or two lines that'll rub you wrong. Other than that, if you're a normal person who doesn't really give a shit about that kind of stuff, it's not going to bother you. Also, likewise, I guess if you're a super, new wave feminist and you're definitely expecting this movie to be some super power positive message about women, that's not there either. It's just a movie. It's just a movie, and it's just a good movie at that. One that I think most well-balanced humans will be able to enjoy, even if it doesn't support whatever their particular notion on that topic is. So overall, highly recommend you seeing it. So let's get into some of the specifics and get into the spoiler part, and I will move this to the side. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman. All right, spoiler time. So, there's some stuff in the movie that does irk me. Specifically, the way that the Ares story is told and how we are told that Diana is created. At the beginning of the movie, her mom doesn't want her trained because... And I guess the reasoning is because the more powerful she is, the better the chances of Ares finding her. And they give you this illusion that Ares simply doesn't exist in the way that the Amazons and Diana expect him to. And of course he eventually does after she loses faith a little bit and stuff like that. It's an interesting character arc. It's an interesting story arc. It kind of bothers me that the person that Ares was masquerading as was that person. What were the chances? Why wouldn't he be on the German side instead of the London side? It's bizarre that, and then she met him, ran into him at random. Of course, he is a god, and he has some influence over people, so it may be possible that he, was using people to try to find that place and used our main guy, Steve, to find that place and lure her out. I guess there's some level to where they never talk about that in the movie, if that's the case. If that's the case, it's never really alluded to in the movie. I didn't pick up on it, and I don't think my wife did either. She has the idea that this is what they're supposed to be saying, but they don't. So stuff like that, they kind of brush over. And then Ares says he was nearly killed and he lost most of his powers, but then he's very powerful towards the end of the film. That's particularly bothersome. I personally would have enjoyed had Ares simply actually been dead. And I don't know how that would fit into the comic books or any of the various worlds that the comic books have created. But it could be the cinematic Earth could have an Earth in which Ares was long dead, but it was man that was fucking with each other all the time. That men are actually inherently bad after all. I don't know. Either way, the story was still good. Little nitpicky points like that. One of the things that did not bother my wife, but bothered me, is that as Steve is going off on his mission at the end of the movie, and knowing he'll never see Diana again, he does say, "I love you," but he's known the woman for like 5 days, and so it's kind of weird that he loves her, but then again, she is a god, so it's kind of hard not to love her, and she does stand for everything he's fighting for, so that kind of makes sense. Maybe he loves the idea of her, and of course... he knows he's not going to see her again, so why not? Why not say that? Why not give her the watch and just be like, love you, I guess? I don't know what love is, but whatever, see ya. The sex thing was kind of there, and I can see that kind of felt shoehorned in, but then again, why wouldn't she want the opportunity to have sex with the first man she ever saw? That I'm surprised it took as long as it took. I'm glad that they added that, even though it's slightly mature. I'll tell you one other thing I was really excited about this movie. They did not mind killing people. They killed the shit out of people. They just killed people left. It's a war, so it makes sense. It is the World War, so it kind of makes sense that a lot of people die. But straight up, people just killed people. It was not a thing. The Amazonians killed people. Wonder Woman killed people. People just died. Very different from the DC comic universe I grew up with, but a pleasant change in that. I really do. Again, the bleakness of the DC cinematic universe is not something that bothers me. It bothers a lot of people. It doesn't bother me. I like a good dark story. I like a good dark, terrible, terrifying story. That's fine by me. But it just has to be handled well, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just bleak for the sake of bleak. Oh, and also the baby has cancer for no reason. Right? I don't know. But in this case, it all worked out exactly the way I expected it to. Right from the very beginning of the movie, the scenery was incredible. The filmography was incredible. The acting was incredible. The story's good. I'll tell you, towards the end, it does something that the DC movies do. I think, this is personal opinion here, so it's not objective. I've always noticed that in the Marvel movies, they tend to make it look kind of realistic. They try to make it look very realistic, right? And often the CGI is so good that it doesn't look like a comic book panel. It looks like a movie. Often in this DC universe, they make frames look like comic book panels. Specifically, the fight with Ares. there are some scenes in there that kind of look, it's mostly black, but there's a little bit of the fire, and you can see the frozen sparks, and they slow-mo everything, and Diana's still moving, but the background isn't, and you see Ares flying through the air, and it often looks like they're trying to make it look like a comic book. Marvel doesn't do that, and I think I prefer the Marvel style. The good news is, in this movie, they did less of that than they ever did. They did even less of it than they did in Batman vs. Superman, in the action scenes and stuff like that. I'm very grateful, because it always throws me out of the moment when it looks like a comic book, drawing rather than, because it is a drawing, it's CGI, right? But I always prefer when it looks like a movie than it does a comic book. Still very enjoyable. I think that's probably my biggest nitpick. I think my 3 biggest nitpicks really come down to, I love you, really? You've known me for like 5 days. But then again, I am a god, so that makes sense. The fact that Steve does what he has to do, but it makes sense that he has to do what he has to do. Like you said, he could save the day. She could save the world, so he has to do it. She could also save the day and the world, and you just had to chill. But whatever, Steve, that's fine. I hope I'm getting his name right. I'm pretty sure it was Steve. Steve Trevor, I think, was the main supporting character's name. Anyway, and then the sex scene, just was kind of gratuitous, but I'm glad it's there. I enjoy that. I like mature content in my movies, so I was okay with that. And I think just that the filming style that they use sometimes a little frustrating. This, though, does give me some serious hope for Justice League. If this is directed and filmed and edited and written in the same way by the same people, I'm pretty excited. I don't know who's currently on board for the Justice League. I worry about the Justice League because it has Spider-Man 3 syndrome right out of the gate. Too many villains, too many heroes, too much going on. But then the Avengers got it right twice. So I think they can get it right here as well. So if you saw the movie, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about my opinion. Let me know what you think I got right and what I didn't get right. Let me know in the comment section below. If you haven't seen the movie, why did you watch this part? So that's it. Let me know what you think about my opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree down below. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon. Hope you enjoyed the movie, because I sure did. This is a wonderful time to be a nerd. Such good stuff to watch. So happy, so happy.